Hello again, my name is Ernest Minu. Let's settle for the details now. The Tema Regional CID is investigating a case in which a mother is suspected to have had a hand in the death of her two children. Now, according to ACP FRIMPONG, the Tema Police CID officer, the incident was first reported late Thursday when the Tema Regional CID had information that two children were found dead at MAHAMUDU town in Tema. And we'll bring you that shortly. Meanwhile, consultant psychiatrist Dr. Eugene Dodoe said the psychosocial aspect of such cases also needs to be considered during such investigations.
This woman obviously does not show any remorse of her actions. And she may not even think that it is wrong for what she did, because just like in the case of Charles Entry, he actually said that going to prison is going to delay him from becoming a president. Now he's going to spend some time in prison before, when he comes out, he becomes the president. So this was an obvious impairment in judgment. So looking at this woman, and I think I have read somewhere, I think on Ghana Web or so, that she had made mention that she will kill the children days before this happened. So she obviously showed signs of mental illness even before this happened. And in this case, I understand no attempt was made to cover her tracks. So she did not kill them and hide them, or she did not kill them and, she didn't even realize she can be prosecuted for, what she did. So basically, she does not understand the implications of her actions. So this woman has an impaired judgment. And we can see this condition commonly in schizophrenia. It can happen in some mood disorders, but largely schizophrenia, where people have impaired thinking or impaired thinking process. And that is what I see here. I've not seen her, I've not assessed I cannot make a diagnosis. But from the short video I see, this is a woman who does not know the implications of her actions, because she has impaired ability to judge whether, this is right or wrong. So we need to understand some of these things. And I really do not think anybody deserves to be punished for being sick. If this woman is assessed and found out to be mentally ill, then we cannot punish her. I think we should realize as a state we have failed her for not keeping her alive to save those two children. There should be programs to educate us on what mental illness symptoms are. And that is what I mentioned earlier about mental health literacy. So that if we understand that such behaviors, it could be because somebody is ill, our first line of action will not, be to criminalize her. Because it's virtually saying that because your BP is too high, go to court. Because your sugar has remained uncontrolled, go to court. Because you've not been able to control your weight and you have obesity, therefore, let's punish you. It is your fault. It is very sad as a nation we take that.
Let's now hear from ACP FRIMPONG, the Tema Police Crime Officer. He spoke with Roland Walker earlier on Newsdesk.
It was yesterday 5:30 p.m. that we had information to that effect. So some of our officers went to the scene and noticed that there were two children on the bed who were pulled when to the touch. And they also realized that they were foaming from the mouth. So they asked of the mother, and they got to know of the mother, and the mother said the children had fallen sick the previous week and had taken them to hospital, and that the medicines that the hospital gave them, that is what he was giving to them. And the night prior to the incident, they had given them some of the medicine. But when they woke up, he realized that the children were still sleeping and they were cold. So she had to go and tell the mother. And the mother asked two of the children, elder children, to come and see what was happening. So when they got there, they also realized that the children were dead. So that was what he was telling us. But when we saw that they were foaming from the mouth, we had suspicion that probably they might have taken some poisonous substance. So all the substances that we suspected to be medicine or whatever it is were taken by the police for further investigation. The 2 children were taken to the police hospital. The doctor testified that they were dead and that they have been put into the morgue for autopsy and further investigations.
Now, this will be a crime of what proportion? For the criminal code, where does it fall?
Yes. Currently, we are considering the crime of murder. That is what we're investigating. So if by the conclusion of our investigation, some other offense is what comes out, or if no offense has been committed, then we will take it from there. But currently, we are investigating the case of murder.
Is it normal for a mother to just act the way she did?
Well, I'm not in a position to say that, but that is her story. She hasn't confessed to us that she poisoned her. So we're still investigating in our custody. Our officers are going to the hospital she alleged we send the children to confirm or otherwise, and then we'll take it from there.
Where is the lady currently?
She's in our custody.
Okay. In Accra or in Tema?
In Tema.
Mm.
Now, in another development, the Savannah Regional Police Command has, as part of its continuous surveillance on alleged perpetrators of the 90-year-old woman, arrested another suspect, a 32-year-old woman at Kejewu, Boto, a suburb of the East Gonja municipality. Now, the suspect is alleged to be one of 3 ladies seen in the viral video torturing the 90-year-old Opoku-Agyemang. Her arrest brings the number of suspects in police custody to 6. Isaac Nonya, our Savannah region correspondent, has been following this, and we'll be bringing you updates in our subsequent bulletins. We'll raise Isaac on the line to tell us more on this latest arrest. But right now, let me bring you some stories on it. With violent conduct already marring the largely peaceful ongoing voter registration exercise, the Vice President, Dr. BAWUMIA, is urging Muslim youth to stay away from violence and shun politicians who may want to contract them to perpetrate crime. Dr. BAWUMIA has asked the youth not to allow their political differences to divide their ranks by putting their energies to productive ventures in their communities. The Vice President said this when he joined a handful of Muslims at the forecourt of the GBC House to mark a virtual Eid.
This year is an important year for our country as we will be going to the polls in December. If Ghana is revered across the globe as a shining example of democracy in Africa, it is because of how we have generally conducted ourselves peacefully in previous elections. We have to maintain this enviable reputation, and it is important for all stakeholders to ensure that we maintain peace. We enjoy the peace we enjoy in this country. We in government have a responsibility to ensure that, and we pledge our commitment to that. I want to take this opportunity to appeal to the youth of the Zongos to reject being used as pawns to perpetuate political violence. Our communities no longer be a place where the violent-minded people will come and hire people to propagate their agenda. This must be a thing of the past. We are fortunate to have our father, the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Osman Nur Sharbatu, an icon of peace we can always draw inspirations from to eschew violence. I urge every Zongo youth to emulate the peaceful nature of our father wherever you are and ward against acts of violence. Regardless of your political affiliation, politics should not be a barrier between you and your fellow brother from the same community. The elections are a simple exercise of choosing worthy leaders who will ensure our inclusion in national policies, welfare, and our nation's development. It is not an exercise to divide us through violence.
He also touted government's record in developing Zongo communities, pledging to do more to improve livelihoods.
Your Eminence, a government that cares is a government that alleviates the suffering of its citizens during a crisis. And that is exactly what this government has done, and inshallah will continue to do during this crisis. We can say in all humility and without any equivocation that there really is no government in recent history that has paid as much attention to the development needs of the Zongo communities and put in place a vehicle to deliver those development needs as the government of His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. The President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo promised the people of the Zongo that he would establish the Zongo Development Fund if he got elected, by the grace of Allah. However, after winning the 2016 elections by the grace of Allah, President Akufo-Addo did not only fulfill the promise of establishing the Zongo Development Fund, but he also decided to go a step further by creating a ministry for Zongo and inner city development. Today, the Ministry for Zongo and Inner Cities Development, as well as the Zongo Development Fund, serve as dedicated government agencies addressing issues affecting the Zongos and inner cities, especially on education and infrastructure development. So this means that, inshallah, from now on going, the Zongos will always be catered for in every budget. This is the first time in history. Every budget we will have allocations for the Zongos.
And we'll be bringing more on the Eid celebrations later in our subsequent bulletins. Away from that, the running mate of the NDC flag bearer, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyemang, has been defending her decision to join scores of senior NDC members who signed a petition for the Muntie 3 to be pardoned. Now, in 2016, the former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast joined others, asking then President John Mahama to pardon the Muntie 3. But Professor Opoku-Agyemang has come under criticism for her decision since she was named running mate. But speaking on Cape Coast-based Live FM, she justified her action.
The
long and short of everything is that people take their time to listen to what the people were alleged to have done. Did they hear any rape in what they said? What was their charge in court? Did it include rape? What was the sentence? In all this, no one went to court to discharge them. The court was allowed to do its work. Those of us who took time to listen to what they said, we prevailed on them to go and apologize, and they went to apologize. They continued apologizing until their sentences were handed down.
Okay.
We did not interfere with the court process. If you look at the judicial processes, there's something called clemency. Do you mean that when someone sins or commits a wrong and the person runs to you, a mother, to intervene and beg, would you push the person into the fire? Or when you beg, does it mean that you support what he did? When you have a child and a child goes out and throws stones that breaks the glass of someone's car, I know as a parent, you might have raised your child very well, but it is not always the case that they will stick to what you tell them. You might tell them, don't go to this place or don't do that, but they will go against it. Your child has gone against your words. He's done something wrong. Do you mean that the talks and all you will do to him will be in the public domain? No one heard what we told the three men in private. We said it's all right. Let the law take its course. And the law took its course. They went to jail, and we said to ourselves, we have to go and beg. Our Ghanaians telling us they've not heard this before. The former president could have intervened, but he didn't. He didn't do that. He allowed the due processes to be followed. What do we see today?
Okay. It is so be a one.
Now, former local government and rural development minister Professor Kwame Nahoy has launched his book in which he shares details of how Ghana rejected a request by Ronald Reagan for the release of 400 Ghanaians to America. This was one of the demands for the release of Rawlings's relative Michael Susudis, arrested for espionage in the United States. He read portions of the book titled Working with Rawlings.
The Americans then sent a signal to Accra that they were prepared to negotiate an exchange between Michael Susudis and their Ghanaian assets. The government agreed in principle to the negotiated exchange in a return signal to them. The negotiations began in a very bizarre fashion. The CIA sent down to us, through the U.S. Embassy in Accra, a list of almost 100 Ghanaians, including the names of some very prominent citizens, all of whom they claimed were their assets. They wanted to take out all these persons, as well as their spouses, their children, and their parents. The Americans provided their full details, including their addresses, their schools, in the case of the children, their workplaces, and various other particulars. They wanted to take these assets and their relations away to the USA by landing a C-130 military transport plane at the Tamale airport to evacuate all of them in one flight. In all, about 400 Ghanaians were to be evacuated in the exercise. Ghana's counterintelligence unit went to work. They advised us to reject the proposal on 3 main grounds. One, the list clearly contained names of persons who could not possibly be CIA assets and was intended to destabilize Ghana's intelligence architecture. Two, the so-called assets acted as individuals. Their sins could not therefore be extended to their spouses, their children, and their parents. Three, the use of a C-130 military transport plane posed a grave security risk to Ghana. What if 500 U.S. Marines popped out of the plane and launched an attack on the country?
Professor Ahoy also shared how Rawlings managed to convince him to serve in his second term despite early announcing his retirement. This happened during a special event to honor him.
By the end of President Rawlings' first term of office on 6 January 1997, I had decided to leave frontline politics and not to continue in office as minister in his second term as president. I had communicated my decision to both President Rawlings and Captain Kojo Chikata, and neither of them had objected to my decision. Not too long after Rawlings' inauguration as the president of the second government of the Fourth Republic on 7th January 1997, but before he began the nomination of his ministers, I received a telephone call from Captain Chikata. He asked me to submit my curriculum, my CV, to the State Protocol Division because President Rawlings had decided to bestow a state honor on me. I was ecstatic and extremely appreciative because I believed this was Jerry's way of bidding farewell to me as I exited his government. I duly complied and submitted my CV. On the appointed day, bedecked in my colorful kente cloth, in which I must admit I felt very uncomfortable, as I was not used to wearing cloth, and accompanied by my wife Comfort and my siblings, I reported at the venue for the event at the frontage of Parliament House. When it got to my turn to be presented with a medal of the Officer of the Volta and the Scroll of Honor, President Rawlings held on to me for an unusually long time. What people did not realize was that he was talking to me. I still remember his words as if it were yesterday. Munia, he said, we started this journey together. Don't abandon me in the middle of the journey. Let us finish the journey together. In the euphoria of the moment, and given the solemnity of the occasion, what else could I say but mumble, yes, sir? With that, I was locked into Rawlings' second government of the Fourth Republic, and I had become the proud recipient of the state honor of the Officer of the Volta.
Now, former NMC chairman Yao Jan Apinton says the book is by far the best account of the Rawlings administration.
It is a scholar's book It is not an apologia. It is not something, a mea culpa. It is not something somebody is writing to exonerate themselves in office. It is a genuine effort to recall and recount, and this is important. I think it is the preface written by Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyemang, and she, very scholarly, scholar of literature, points out that what biography set out to do, to recall and to retell, and this is done with excellence. I have also to commend the publisher, Mr. Fred Labi, and Didi Books for publishing these wonderful books. A lot has been said, and I hope that they will continue so that we have more of this, because this has just whetted our appetite, which is why we need more.
Hello everyone, it's time for business. I'm Charles Aite. Government has approved a stimulus package for the aviation sector. Now, this is expected to come in form of support for workers and the financial release for firms operating in the sector. Speaking at a handing over ceremony for the Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, the sector minister stated that the move is to help mitigate the shocks that have hit the sector.
Yes, the government has approved the bailout, largely dedicated towards maintaining the staff. So the Minister of Finance has approved a facility with the Consolidated Bank of Ghana, to which the agency would have to liaise to get the support they need to be able to maintain their staff. So that's been done in the first place. The agencies themselves, Civil Aviation Authority, Airport Company, they have also been able to extend other privileges to the operators at the airport. They've given them free rent, and they've reduced the landing charges and so on and so forth. Those are certain things going on, and the operators are happy about it. Oh, I can't give you the details now, but as I said, some of them, the main thing is simply on the compensation scheme to keep the staff so that there's no layoff, there's no dismissal. That's the main thrust of it. Yeah. It's left with the agency to negotiate with them.
Now, government has indicated it will be focusing heavily on domestic tourism as part of a recovery strategy for that space. The sector is said to be one of the hardest hit by COVID-19, with more than 6,000 job losses, while other facilities are shutting down. The Minister for Tourism spoke on PM Express Business Edition with George Riafi.
You know, with this project that we are implementing, the Ghana Tourism Development Project, is looking at the various challenges that confront the industry and lending the support to address them. So as we complete this first phase, we can get even more support to do bigger things, and that is how we are going to make the impact. So this first phase is to address the fundamental challenges, like we are looking at policy, our tourism policy, we are looking at our culture policy, we are looking at our training policy for the industry, because this is a service industry, and therefore you need to, the service should be excellent, so that people will feel gratified to come back to you again. And under the project, we are going to set up a state-of-the-art training institute. So all that together, by the time we complete the first phase of the project, we would have addressed some of the fundamental challenges, and then we will get even more funding to do bigger things.
It's been of a great concern to people who patronize the industry and others about standardization. What are you going to do about it? When we talk about the facility being a 2-star, a 5-star, a 7-star, they get that benefit as somebody that goes to this place or patronizes facility.
Yeah, and this is the mandate of the Ghana Tourism Authority to ensure that as it regulates all these hotels and all these facilities within the tourism business environment, that they comply with the standards that are set. And recently we have passed the tourism travel trade regulations, and we have also passed the tourism sites regulations, and these regulations are going to give them the mandate to actually regulate what happens at our tourist sites and how they are managed and all that. that, as well as our travel and tour operators, how they are supposed to operate, what their facilities are to be like, and all that. So these regulations that have recently been passed by Parliament.
Now, government has secured some funding from the World Bank to help with the establishment of job placement centers across the country. The Deputy Employment Minister, Bright Rekubrobe, disclosed this at the Joy Business Jobs and Salaries Roundtable. He added that this should help deal with unemployment in the country.
We have already had approval with World Bank granting us, it's a holistic package of about $200 million, 30 or so of which is coming to the Employment Ministry to refurbish, among other things, our public employment centers. We hope in this process to refurbish 16 centers and targeting one in each region to ensure that the young graduates go there, key in their qualifications and so on, and then we do job matching and link them to jobs. Oh, well, once it's taken under the budget, it's going to be rolled out. Already everything is fashioned out. The project is rolling out from January 2021. The other one is the insurance for the unemployed that we talked about. But that needs to really think through and then come out with modalities on how to roll this out. The Social Partnership Council is the one in charge at the moment. That is the tripartite constituent, the employers, the labor, the government sitting together to do a solid brainstorm and to come out with the modalities how to roll this out. And we are sure one constraint is data. And as we battle it out and get data, modalities to run around in the absence of data, how to get people, benefiting from this kind of thing. So it's kind of a work that will go on beyond what he has mentioned. We need to look at it very well.
And that's it by way of business. I'm Charles Ayete. Sports is up next.